I'm going through a lot of struggles on making my latest videos for the next several months, but since that, I've been reconsidering on doing a video on Zay Magenta, who is planning on releasing his documentary on his harassers. I'm gonna be really truthful with you guys. His latest community post is just an indication that it's hard for me to feel sympathy towards him when he's literally doing all this to himself. Well, he makes this multi-paragraph community post on what he really feels of how he's causing all this to himself, but also being 100% honest. Believe me, this is the closest way he's ever going to be this honest after the many years of his behavior instantly pulling him down in the hole that he just refuses to get out of. Now, I've read the entire I've read the entire community post, and to tell you the truth, I was I felt sympathy at first, but the more I think about it, it's really getting exhausting. Like, one of the reasons onto why I keep going back to Zay Magenta, not by videos, but mainly what he's going to be doing next when it comes to the posts that he makes, it really feels like that he is only just making himself really difficult to fit in, which, in all honesty, he was fitting in his earlier years on YouTube. And to tell you the truth, it's amateur that it's amateurish for people like Zay Magenta to fill in, to be part of a group that he wants to be part of. And to tell you the truth, he did a lot of accomplishments in his earlier years. But believe me when I say this, I really felt like that this entire post, after years upon years of his behavior and the fact that he kept attacking so many people while completely taking screenshots of them and taking them out of context for his own advantage. Believe me, that is where that the sympathy just dies. Let me tell you, if he really didn't send any death threats, I'm pretty sure that he would have reconsidered on what he writes. Because believe me, the screenshots that I taken showcases that he did send death threats. Like, believe me, if his way of saying is someone should be executed or something like that or whatever, it still qualifies as death threats, no matter how you see it. And believe me, even if he may not dox anyone's personal information, I still can't get over the fact that he still sends death threats. Because, in all honesty, this is honestly becoming a lot more irritating to think about, because the only mindset that I have involving Zay Magenta is that when he finally releases his harassment video on every person who warned him. Because to tell you the truth, I've already pictured on how I was gonna wrap up the entire video and just address that I don't want any part of him nor his friends no matter what. Because believe me, I really try to understand that the whole Robert and Rosa situation is what really causes Zaid to be less bad than those people. However, the way I see it right now, it really feels like that he's using these people as a shield. Mainly a shield to protect himself, and even if I understand that he doesn't deserve so much pain, it doesn't change the fact that as the months go by, he's not making himself any better by proving to anyone that he is not as worse as the other people. Like, I understand that Robert and Rose have a lot of problems, and the fact that it leads to them being into a predicament that they got themselves into and they can't get out of, and they don't deserve any sympathy whatsoever. But the thing is, the reason onto why Zaid isn't gaining any sympathy from me is the fact that it's been going on for so long. It's way more irritating to think of the positives that he's did when the negatives are overshadowing, because as much as I try to understand that he did do some good things, it was still mostly in the past while he actually put a better example in front of his subscribers and newcomers. But now he's not even bothering trying to set a better example. Moral values, well, he instantly just expressed on how moral values are important, mainly family, only to expose on the fact that in the end of his video, he completely puts mainly his so-called harassers in, including myself, which for me personally just showcases of how he's not even bothering to prove himself that he is better than anyone else. And when I mean better than anyone else, I mean people who aren't like Rosa or Robert. Like, I have to admit, I'm not better than anyone else. I don't have an ego. Granted, I express myself a little too much, but at the same time, I don't express my ego. And the fact that it's difficult for me to find any positivity involving Zaid, especially in his old videos, mainly his Steven Universe video, my perspective on those elements have changed because of his behavior. Like, when the Wapot situation came out, he did not need the knowledge of making a documentary of his harassers, because in all honesty, he did fine. He had everything that he had right in front of him, to the point that he is the victim in all this. But in 2 months later, it didn't change the fact that he started Cartouchi, and he's still doing the same to other people, even to this day. Granted, he admitted, but at the same time, he's still doing it in the fact that he didn't take the advice from Blair TV on getting out of culture wars and not agreeing on what people think about the latest material. Mainly it's their taste, which isn't harming anyone. Is an indication that he didn't take this video into any consideration. And even if this video is a year and a half old, shockingly, this video has aged a lot more in comparison to what Zaid has went through. This is why I always go to this video and look at the comments, because to tell you the truth, the comments really tell a lot on how people feel about the situation, on what Zay Magenta has become. Like, Cartouchi doesn't do wage videos like he used to, mainly for shock humor. And to tell you the truth, there's nothing wrong on continuing what you do, but as long as you do not insult people or anything else, then that is all that you need to do. Like, that's literally all you need to do. It's not that hard to not insult people while giving your perspective on a media that you have mixed opinions on. Like, in Cartouchi's old videos, like Star Wars, even if he have a different perspective, and his Loud House video, mainly the decline of the Loud House, he was regretful for what he did. Granted, I'm not sure on everything that way he feels centering around his perspective on the shows, but to tell you the truth, Cartouchi, who even if he has 100,000 more subscribers than Zaid, still improves in the fact that there's so much to express, because believe me, you can really tell that he's just trying to be extremely honest when he tries to improve himself. I'm gonna get to that. I know it's here, believe me. I know people are gonna be confused, but there's a huge difference in comparison to this post and the old post that Cartouchi made last year. It's this one that he made last year. This is literally the post where he actually self-reflects himself to the point that he was a 16-year-old tryhard. Granted, he's a dip S, but I don't want to swear. But to tell you the truth, he really admits that he never wanted to cause any hate or anyone towards someone, no matter how they can't control. And to tell you the truth, that really showcases that Cartouchi, who is now 19, has a lot more improvements and has a better reputation in comparison to Zaid. Like, believe me when I say this. When Cartouchi made those videos involving Steven Universe, Loud House, among others, he was a teenager, which I didn't realize until he uploaded this video, or when Leo Convoy expressed that he was underage. And if you really want my perspective on the whole thing, it gave me the impression that Cartouchi, while not one of my favorite YouTubers, has showed that he has improved when it comes to his video content. Though granted, negativity is unavoidable when it comes to viewership, but in all honesty, he knew what he was doing really gave him a bad reputation. So, thinking about this post, believe me, it's far from not enough. As in, from the opposite side of the goal that you're trying to reach. I really tried to admire what Zaid is trying to express in his latest community post. Like, I really, really want to. And I understand that his outside life, mainly outside the internet, is a lot more important. Which, to be perfectly real, I watched his videos, mainly his Disney World vlogs and other things, to the point that he does take his life seriously. Though in comparison to my life, it's a different story, but to tell you the truth, if you really think of how Zaid was portrayed in the early years of YouTube, he was anything but unstable. And to tell you the truth, when he went through the drama of Golden Fox, he really expressed himself to be on the road for redemption, but let's be real, that hasn't aged well, and that was in 2015 before I started my YouTube channel. Let me tell you for a fact that if I really wanted to take Zay Magenta seriously and his struggles of what he's dealing with in the real world, mainly the passing of his father, he still needs to set a better example. Like, I only think about these aspects if the person is good. Like, it's one thing to admire on the fact that real life is important, but at the same time, it's still difficult to look Zay Magenta as the good guy after admitting to all this, all the while stalking Cartouchi all your last year. Believe me, I really, 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 really want to feel sympathy towards Zaid, but to tell you the truth, it's not enough, because he crossed so many lines that moral values is really becoming a lot more repetitive when he's literally doing the opposite of that. This is the photo that I have involving all the tweets and comments from Zay Magenta towards basically anyone that he is going after when it comes to harassment. Let me tell you, this comment, even if it has nothing to do with Zay Magenta commenting on someone, even if he did, this is mainly involving his documentary on his harassers, and that creepy reading stated, "Dude, this is unhinged. Take a step back and consider how bad this looks." To tell you the truth, he's right. Like, you can really tell that all the comments that I've seen, it really feels like that he can't be able to lie correctly. Like, in one of the videos centering around him, he called them out on being a liar, which for me personally, I just don't even understand what he's trying to do. Like, I honestly don't know what his motivation is at this point. Believe me, it's not really funny when all these comments that I've seen involving Zay Magenta and expressing his hatred towards media really is becoming a lot more ridiculous, that it's just becoming overwhelming rather than looking at the criticisms of the media that he's talking about. Like, when he uses a shield to block any criticism without any self-reflection, that is the problems I've seen involving the people that go against Zaid. Is just impossible to see Zaid as the good guy in all this. Like, Robert and Rosa, I can understand, but to tell you the truth, when people take things a little too seriously, it's literally impossible to be civilized when at the end of the day it's just literally arguing, and mainly arguing. And let me tell you, I really felt like that at this point. I really can't be able to take the stress into looking into negative aspects because it's just becoming really repetitive. Like, the Rosa call, as much as I understand that she deserves to be called out, keep in mind the bullying in the call involving multiple people didn't do any favors. You can really tell that after the comment that was reaching a lot more likes than necessary, then it's gotten to a point that Zay Magenta, Leo Convoy, and the other people really need to handle situations differently. But guess what Zay Magenta describes this whole comment, which has more likes than his, and I can guarantee you that his dislikes are a lot more. Hey scumbag, Rosa does not get to play victim. Her disability doesn't matter. Her PTSD doesn't matter. None of her problems matter in the face of her activity in knowing how's in a CP for months on edge and playing more high ground on Twitter. Considering the severity of her actions, this was handled in a fitting and... Tell me, do you honestly think that he actually self-reflects? Believe me, does he? I don't think so. Having a disability or PTSD does not make you a house CP. That's like saying having autism makes you a potential school shooter. She's an adult. She is a grown woman. This should have been common knowledge to her years ago. If she needed this thrashing from the Senate to have any I can't spell that word, of the weight of her inaction, she deserves to be chewed out. How about instead of expressing sympathy to Rosa, you should show it to the victims of the CP she harbored. She wasn't showing any sympathy. Unlike, the only sympathy that she can give towards Rosa is the harassment and bullying, but it's not her behavior. Like, you can really tell that even if Rosa is someone is manipulating people, it really feels like that Zaid is still using Rosa as a shield to prevent himself from criticism. That's really the problem I have, is that when I make the video, if I did have the chance to make the video, I will express that he's using Robert and Rosa as shields to prevent himself from getting called out. Like, let me tell you, the Star Wars sequel trilogy, I do not like them, but I do not hate them. And to tell you the truth, when I look into these places, when it comes to people expressing what they feel, on what they enjoy, especially in the modern times, it's called taste. Like, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny came out this year, and it has been described as one of the worst Indiana Jones movies, but I didn't go to the theater because I wanted to watch the movie. Like, I did watch the movies before watching it, but I didn't have any plans on watching it in theaters. My dad wanted me to watch the movie in theaters because he actually enjoys Indiana Jones. Tell me. My dad isn't an expert on reviewing media, but at the same time, he still enjoys movies at the end of the day. And whenever I think about of how that I'm supposed to feel sympathy towards Zaid that his father passed away, then it's impossible. Like, really impossible. Like, you really need to prove to people that you're better than everyone else in order to prove that your opinions are really, really, really accurate. Like, the reasons on to why I am not against Zaid's stalkers, mainly when it comes to remaining selfless, who was stalking who was stalking Zay Magenta in order to get the documentary of his harassers. I try to understand that he has problems, but it doesn't change the fact that Zaid is not doing any favors when it comes to how he's treating people online. Like, let me express onto what I feel on how this entire thing of moral values and harassing people and all that stuff, because if it's becoming a hypocritical thing of people doing when it comes to expressing in order to avoid themselves from criticism, then it's really becoming ridiculous, because it's becoming so common with so many people going on throughout the internet. And it took me time to realize that there was a lot going on to understand all this. Granted, it was a long process, but to tell you the truth, it took a progress that I was really, really trying to understand where people are coming from. But at the same time, it's becoming overwhelming that the negativity is just it's just removing the positivity of what people can do in their spare time. Like, I don't have a job for the following 4 years, not following 4 years, but in the last 4 years, because my parents are busy, mainly on just trying to do something when it comes to financially. But in all honesty, I'm fully aware of how difficult it is to prove to people that you need to be a better person. And the trait that I have is not insulting people, nor harassing them, or doing anything. Like, the mistakes that I did were literally my poor decisions on doing it at the wrong time, or the fact that I'm just not into the drama completely. Because believe me, the grooming minors thing is important, but at the same time, it's still becoming overwhelming to think about, and it's really, really becoming a lot more exhausting when you take into consideration that even if Zaid isn't a child molester, it still doesn't change the fact that he's not doing himself any favors on improving himself. Because even if he comes back after several months or maybe another year, he will probably go back to the way he was, and just in this entire community post really feels like that he's just manipulating his audience, which I'm starting to convince that he isn't. But at the same time, I still don't think that I still don't believe him in the slightest. Believe me, when he stated, if you have any comments of anger, disappointment, or disapproval of this, you are free to say as you will. I deserve it for these childish actions. I always have a history of relapsing into bad behavior, and this is just the latest in a string of examples. You know, I don't even think that Zaid is ever going to express on his bad behavior and just showing the screenshots that he did on his own channel in front of his subscribers, because even after the Cartouchi situation, he still has 52,000 subscribers, or 5,200 if that makes sense. And the way I see it, I really felt like that his subscribers are only into his videos when it comes to his style, mainly his raging, his perspective, and mainly how he handles his videos. But it doesn't change the fact that they don't even see the bad things that he did involving harassment and other stuff. And let me tell you, I really felt like that at this point, I just don't want anything to do with these types of people, because they just can't be able to self-reflect themselves completely. And when they just use other people for a shield, even if the other people have done terribly, is honestly difficult to see them as the good guy in all this. Like, Leo Convoy has been defending Zaid a lot more, and as much as I understand that he's doing a service of protecting children, it doesn't change the fact that his friend is literally unstable and he's not doing anything. Like, I understand that he and Zaid took care of the Mint Heart situation back in 2018, which is something that shouldn't be overlooked, but at the same time, that was 5 years ago, and we're in the present. Well, even if what they're going through is a lot more important than what I'm doing right now, it doesn't change the fact that they're not proving themselves that Zaid is improving. Like, it's really difficult to see that when they just address that mean words is not a way to handle a situation, since that it's common. But when they just use what they do in front of them, it's not giving me the impression that Zaid is being better. Like, I understand what he's doing is protecting children and whatnot, but at the same time, that wasn't really the point of the entire conflict to begin with. It just wasn't. Like, it just feels like that type of conflict of insulting things that are really important in life is really beyond the point on what is really the biggest problem of them all. And to tell you the truth, it's really becoming really, really old to see Zay Magenta like this. And even though that his perspective on people who deserves to be called out are really reasonable, but him using them as a shield is really becoming a lot older, especially since that it's gone to a point that I just wanted this entire conflict to just stop. Like, even if it would never stop, and even if it's the internet, no matter what people think or what I feel, Zay Magenta ended up becoming one of the first bronies that I looked up to, even if they did a lot of terrible things and over exaggerations in the videos. Because for me personally, I would probably accept anything of what they did if they actually proved to themselves that they're better than the people that they claimed that they are. But the way I see it, it's becoming a waste of thought. Like, moral values, even if you may say that it's still important, but demonizing people who don't do those type of things in real life is just going over the top. Like, in all honesty, it's becoming a waste of thought to think that improving on moral values just does nothing other than just causing more stress and a lot more difficult improvement rather than being who you are. Like, it's fine. Like, going after children and completely going into having them lured into DMs and just saying them photos is one thing. I understand why people would get called out. I understand why the people who harmed children would get called out, because it's really important, which does have actual real life repercussions. But at the same time, when Zaid is literally doing the same thing as harassing other people, even if he's not grooming minors, it's still causing harassment towards other people, even if he's just trying to basically just defending himself poorly, which for me personally, he does a lot more poorly on defending himself on the fact that he's just instantly just harassing people, and he think it's okay then in comparison not grooming children. And to tell you the truth, that is literally the moral values just drop for me, because it's just really pathetic. Like, I was never against children being molested. I was never against that. Like when I say I'm never against children being molested, I wasn't trying to feel less remorseful towards them. I just didn't care about them, as in not in a selfish way. I just didn't think about that. Like, children deserve to be mainly supportive and needs to be protective since they're not ready for the real world. However, whenever I try to look at the good aspects of Zay Magenta and he's just using harassment, that it's okay as long as he's not grooming children, despite the fact that he actually harassed a child, which is Cartouchi, among with others, it really proves to me that he's not really setting a better example on how grooming minors is a problem, and it's just making me overthink on the whole situation for the wrong reasons. Believe me, I don't need to be a drama channel even if I did it a few times, among with other aspects that I did in the past, but in all honesty, sometimes when you hammer in drama 90% of the time, 99% of the time, it just really feels like that you got nothing else better to do, and when you try to make yourself feel better, you're only making yourself look worse. Which is what Zaid is doing throughout the majority of his time on YouTube and on the internet. Granted, he has a job, but I didn't even care of what videos he uploads, mainly his videos on The Little Mermaid, along with other things, because to tell you the truth, these aspects of him hating the sequel trilogy has been long overdue, to the point that I'm no longer interested into watching his Rise of Skywalker review after everything that he did. Because at this point, even if Star Wars just isn't the same as it was, thinking about the negative aspects of it is becoming really, really old. And for me personally, I don't hate the sequel trilogy. I don't like it, but at the same time, I don't say that it's one of the worst things ever. Because for me personally, even if I'm a fan of Star Wars and I had to experience most of this type of stuff when it comes to people's perspective on things, it's just becoming more of a stressful experience rather than just enjoying something that you really want to experience. Because when I watched The Force Awakens in theaters, I really enjoyed it. When I watched The Rise of Skywalker, which was after I watched Zay Magenta's old Last Jedi videos, I was just trying to have positivity, even if it backfired due to the criticism and the movie's poor writing. But believe me, I'm just not like other people, and I just don't harass people, nor I groom minors. I don't do any of that type of stuff. Because believe me, I understand the meanings of fiction and reality, and I always stay in the fiction side rather than the reality side. And when I mean reality, I mean the grooming of minors and all that type of stuff. And that also includes Zay Magenta harassing people online. Like, let me tell you, I know that my first Zay Magenta video back in January of last year was literally me expressing how I feel on the situation, but let's be real, it's really becoming a problem when every time I think about Zay Magenta, despite him being not what I think he is, and just trying to prove himself that he's a better person even though he's doing poorly, is really, really getting old. Like, really, really getting old. Like, no matter how people's perspectives aren't the same, and there's always going to be people having different opinions, it doesn't change the fact that he's not proving himself to be a better person in order to make his opinions stand out the most. In all honesty, I just want to move forwards by going into the lane that I want to be on, rather than being the lane on the people who want me to go on, but I'm not gonna bother. And if Zayd's friends, mainly Leo or the others, want me to be in their car, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Like, even if they may have good advice, it doesn't change the fact that it will probably be the same thing as before, and I'm not just risking it, and I'm not wasting my time. Because in all honesty, I would rather just I just want to go on the route that I want to go on, and just try to prove to people that I can be able to handle the lane that I'm on. even if I'm not the best out of everything. So with that being said, after 35 minutes, I need to get into the consideration that I'm probably not going to get back to Zay Magenta anytime soon. Like, I may be able to get back to him when it comes to the latest information from him, but to tell you the truth, I just want to move forward and focus on my channel and other activities, because for me personally, this is long overdue and I really need to express it, because I wasn't originally going to express on the community tab since I've been focusing on doing a Halloween review that I ended up stopping because I've been burned out. For now at least, but I'm gonna try to finish it. So anyway, Zaid, friends, if you're watching this, mainly Zaid and his friends, if you're watching this, express all you want, but no matter what, I'm not gonna be in your car, and I'm not gonna get into any drama. I rather just stay out what Leo Convoy stated in his videos, and to tell you the truth, I've been doing that since this year came around, and that's literally one of the only improvements that I have in this year, which makes this year slightly better in comparison to last year, but less said about that the better. I'm Lonely Fanboy 48 here, and I'll see you guys in my next uploads the following week of September.